may have heard in spiritual circles that it's beneficial, spiritually speaking, to get rid of the ego, maybe even kill the ego. Both of which presume that there actually is an ego, that there's some internal entity that we must go to battle with. So the first thing is to investigate whether that's actually true or not, to really see what we mean when we talk about ego. And I'd suggest that what we are pointing to is just all the ways that we identify ourselves. Sometimes we think of ego as, well, all those aspects of ourselves that I'm not that fond of, those are the ego. The rest of the parts that I like, the conditioning that I like, well, that's me, right? So that's the bad guy over there, and I'm what's left once I get rid of all of that. But I'm suggesting that ego is much more inclusive than that. It includes all the ways that we identify with ourselves, all our labels, all our history, all our relationships, all our skills, all our wants, all our regrets, all our hopes, dreams, fears, alliances, political parties that we imagine that we belong to, nationalities, races, social status, age, gender, the entirety of what we take ourselves to be. That. And so if we're talking about that there is not an entity, it's just that collection of ways that we identify with who we imagine that we are, centered in this body-mind that we take to be me. That's everything that we take to be me, and that's what I'm talking about as ego. So if we try to eject that, what exactly would want to eject that? The only thing that would want to eject this entire way we identify with ourselves is a belief that it's somehow to our advantage to do so, right? If I manage to somehow eject whatever this ego thing is, then it'll be better for me. Spiritually, maybe it will result in my enlightenment, and then I'll be happy forever and ever. So this is really the ego coming in the back door, trying to put on a spiritual clothing and point out who the real bad guy is this ego. So the first thing that we can do is really investigate what it is. If we're trying to forcibly eject something that doesn't actually exist, all we're doing is strengthening the idea of its existence and then somehow being opposed to it, which further strengthens its apparent reality. And so when we oppose it in that way, we actually increase its apparent formidable nature. It becomes a much bigger opponent than we ever imagined. But if we can just see that it's just this collection of ways that we identify ourselves, all of the ways, the positive ways, the negative ways, the sort of mundane, middle-of-the-road ways, our entire storyline, all of that. So if we can just see it as that, that's really the first step, just to see what it is. It's just the ways that we believe we know what we are, and that they comprise the entirety of what we are. That's me, ego. Right? Okay, so that's really the first step, is just to really see what that's composed of. It's not just the piece that I don't like, it's really the entirety, everything that we believe ourselves to be, all the ways that we sort of know who we are. I'm an introvert. I'm unworthy. I am worthy. I'm pretty. I'm not. I'm, athletic. I'm not. I am wealthy. I'm not. I am respectable. I'm not. All of the ways. All of the ways. And just see that. Just see that as a collection of ideas about ourselves held together by this duct tape of certainty. I know that's what I am. And after a while, after a few decades, it can feel like, that's just who I am. What can I do? It's just how this organism is. And so we can take ourselves to be that. So if we take ourselves to be that, any attempt to try to push that away, to get rid of this sense of ego, while we still believe that that's what we are, it would be like, trying to jump and stand still at the same time. It just doesn't work. Right? But if the first step is just to see what it is, just to see that it is just this collection of beliefs and ideas and data about ourselves that we believe it's true. Okay, so that's step one. Step two is once you've seen the enormity of the ways that we identify ourselves, is to really to take a step back and watch it all in action. See how it operates, right? See the things that trigger us, see the things that move us into action, see the things that we shy away from, see the things that we fear, how we react to that, how we react when we're with other people, what we want from them, what we're willing to offer from ourselves, all of the mechanics of it, right? And the important thing is to do that without self-judgment and without blame and without trying to fix anything. Just watch it, right? If we're not, without stepping back and just watching it, without being horrified by it or justifying it or arguing why it's really true, but just truly witnessing how it all unfolds, only then can we really see the dynamics of it. And until we understand the dynamics of it, we won't be free of it. By understanding it, I don't mean, tracing every little emotional nuance back to childhood and where it came from and who's really responsible. I don't mean that at all. I just mean how it operates day to day in present tense. Just watch it. Watch when it works, watch when it doesn't, watch when you get triggered, watch when you feel justified, watch when you have the strong opinions about something. Just watch what happens. Right? Okay, if we stand back and are actually remaining present for that unfolding, that exhibiting that conditioning, then you'll be able to see it clearly. After a while, it may take some time, and it may be painful to do that. It's sort of like if you've ever had frostbite. Let's say your foot had frostbite. When it begins to thaw is when it really hurts, right? When it's coming back to life is when it really hurts. And seeing this, being able to see one's own egoic tendencies in that way can be painful, because it's like, oh man, yeah, I had no idea the amount of pain and suffering I was causing both myself and others by holding on to that aspect of myself. Right? So it's not all fun and games. It can be very difficult to stand back and really see this, because it's not about who else is responsible and who's to blame, and it's really mom and dad's fault, or the trauma that happened to me 40 years ago is why I still feel like a victim today. That may all be true, but the effect that it has on our life in this present moment is totally dependent on the degree to which we believe it's true and feel justified about it. If we can see it clearly, objectively, as best we can, then we're no longer infusing it with the energy of our belief. We just see it. So we're sort of depriving it of oxygen in a sense, seeing it for what it truly is. So it has a little bit of a distance to it. It's not the distance of rejecting anything, right? It's willingness to stay front and center and watch the behavior without running away, without trying to justify it, without trying to blame somebody else, but just really seeing one's own role in whatever situations are unfolding in the present tense. So that's step 2. So the third step is to begin to recognize that there is this innate awareness, this spaciousness within all of us already. That is what remains present for whatever's occurring. We may not at first be aware of it, but that is, from the very beginning, that is what has been present for whatever's unfolded in this lifetime. So we can begin to see that this awareness is present, is there for whatever's unfolding. And the conditioning will still be there. It won't disappear overnight. So from the perspective of this awareness, the awareness isn't enhanced by the positive conditioning, and it's not diminished by the negative conditioning. It's just awareness. Awareness for however that unfolds. It may be uncomfortable, it may be unpleasant, it may be pleasant. The ego loves this roller coaster of life. It keeps it very much engaged. There's the pleasure. Oh no, there's the pain. And it's like we're enticed, we're enthralled by this daily drama of, will life turn out as I want it to, or won't it? Will I get enlightened or won't I, right? There's this drama happening, and we're very much engaged in it from a very personal perspective. So when we step back, we can see that this whole, very personal sense of engagement with how my life is turning out is also the workings of ego, right? It's all part of this very personal sense of self. So when we step back into this awareness of all of that, what we are surprised to find out one day is that there's not actually a personal entity there. No personal witness. No personal self. There's witnessing, there's awareness, there's consciousness, there's noticing, in a very present way, everything that's happening. But it's more like this mirror-like reflection of whatever's happening without there being a personal self-entity in there anywhere. So this might be wonderfully freeing, maybe shocking, or it may be disturbing. It sort of depends on how tightly we're holding on to all of the conditioned thoughts about who we thought we were. If we're just available to follow this thread of reality wherever it may lead, then it is an immense relief to find out that we're not actually entrapped by this egoic self-entity. We never were. This awareness was always free. The conditioned self was happening as one of the ways that our experience was unfolding within the immensity of this awareness, within this field of awareness within which everything happens. We notice our thought, that thought happens in awareness. We look at the moon at night, that also happens within our awareness. We worry about the future, also happens within present moment awareness. We think about, recall some painful memory from the past, also happens in this present moment awareness. All of it. And it's not happening to a personal, separate self. It's happening to this knowing, spacious presence, formless. Right? So from that perspective, looking at our conditioned self, yes, it's a conditioned. Yes, some tough things have happened. Yes, some beautiful things have happened. Okay. Mm-hmm. And yet this awareness remains as pristine as ever, still aware of the next moment, whether it be pleasant, whether it be difficult, whether it be ordinary. So we may have imagined, we may have heard that, the goal is to completely eliminate the ego, become egoless. That's not going to happen. A lot of it will drop away, yes. I don't know, 95%, yes. But not all of it. You'll still have a personality, right? Jesus had a personality that was different from Buddha's. Rumi had a personality that was different from Nisargadatta. You're going to have a personality. Right? The difference is believing that you are that personality. You're still going to know which mouth to put the food in when you experience hunger. You're still going to turn around if somebody calls your name. You're still going to know how to function in life. But there won't be the same sense of me as a separate person is the entirety of what I am, locked in this body-mind, locked into my situation, locked into my conditioning. Conditioning may still happen, but it won't have the same kind of compulsive grip that it had in the past. when we see it as it is, see it as just conditioning. It's just what happened. Taken on in innocence, often in childhood, a lot of it. And it was just sort of onboarded to this body-mind. Okay, that's what happened. But it doesn't define what we are. What we are is what we have always been. We couldn't be anything other than what we truly are, not for a moment. And that which we are is already free. We don't have to kill the ego after all. We just have to see that it was just an innocent misunderstanding about who we were. When that's seen, it will drop of its own non-existent weight. There'll still be some remnants there. It'll still arise from time to time, but it won't have that immense stickiness that most of us are all too familiar with. It'll just be a relatively minor aspect of our existence in this world of form as something much larger.